Welcome to my second short video explaining the Crossfire World War II rules. In this video I'll be looking at initiative and shooting. Having the initiative and using it wisely while you've got it is the key to winning a game of Crossfire. The player who has the initiative is known as the active player, and they can move and shoot and do all the usual wargamey stuff with their units to their heart's content until they either lose the initiative or it's taken from them by the actions of their opponent. If the initiative is lost or taken, then the other player becomes the active player and they can do what they want until the roles are reversed. Initiative switches backwards and forwards between the players this way for the entirety of the game, often quite rapidly, until the winning conditions for the scenario are met and someone's declared the winner. If you're the active player, you can lose the initiative in a number of ways. The basic rule is that if you try something and fail, then you lose the initiative. So if you shoot at the enemy and don't do enough damage, you'll lose the initiative. If you try and rally a unit and you fail, you'll lose the initiative. And if you initiate a close combat and don't win it, you'll lose the initiative. There are a couple of other rarer instances, but I'll go into them later when we cover the relevant aspects of the game. As the active player, you can have the initiative taken from you by your opponent, because each time you move a unit, if your opponent can see you, they can shoot at you, and if they shoot at you and damage you enough, then your go immediately ends, they get the initiative and they become the active player. It's for this reason that I'm going to cover shooting next rather than movement, because movement in the game is pretty much dependent on your opponent's shooting. Once you understand shooting and its effects, understanding the movement rules is much easier. There's no measuring of ranges in Crossfire. If you can see somebody, you can shoot them. The one exception to this rule is that if there's a friendly unit in the way, you can still see the enemy, but you can't shoot them because of the danger of hitting your own men. In Crossfire, the terrain is what blocks your line of sight and prevents you shooting at the enemy. The terrain rules in Crossfire are also very simple. Terrain is deployed in areas. So on the left here you'd have an area of forest. There would normally be a little template under it, but I couldn't find mine. Never mind, there's a little area of forest there. And if these Germans are in the forest, you can still see them. The British can see them because you can see into terrain. But if the Germans were behind the forest, and I think off camera, you can't see them because you can't see through terrain. So it may be a better example. If I put the Germans in this building, the British can see from where they are into the building and can shoot at the Germans. If the Germans are behind the building, then the building blocks the line of sight and the Germans cannot be shot at. So once you've ascertained that you can see your target, then you can go ahead and roll some dice to shoot at them. A rifle squad in Crossfire rolls 3 dice when it's shooting, and this can give one of 4 results. Each dice that scores a 5 or a 6 counts as a hit. So the first and least welcome result you can get is no 5s or 6s, and this is a miss. Rolling a miss during your turn as the active player when you're shooting at someone is enough to lose you the initiative, and it will then, in this instance, would immediately become the Germans' turn. You can roll 1 hit. 1 hit pins the enemy stand. They get a marker to show they're pinned. I'm going to use this little heart marker because it's easy to see on camera. A pinned unit can shoot, but it cannot move. Rolling a pinned result as the active player will also lose you the initiative because it hasn't done enough damage to keep your momentum going. Once a unit has a pinned marker, further pinned markers have no effect on it. Pinned is just pinned. There's no degrees of severity. Pins can be got rid of by rallying, which is an action that I'll cover later on in another video. You can roll 2 successes. This is much better. 2 successes will suppress the unit you're firing at. They'll get a suppression marker. I used 2 of my generic hurt markers to show that a unit is suppressed. A suppressed unit can neither move nor fire, and suppressing a unit will retain you the initiative if you're the active player. Any later pinned results that are applied to a suppressed unit are just ignored because suppression is far worse than being pinned. However, if a suppressed unit subsequently receives a second suppressed result, then it's deemed destroyed and it's removed from the game. Once again, suppression can be cleared by rallying. The best result you can get is 3 successes, which is 3 hits, and 3 hits on a unit kills the unit and it's immediately removed from the game. Here's a different German squad, and this time the squad's in the trees and gets the benefit of cover. When you're shooting at a squad in cover, you lose a shooting dice, so you only roll 2. Once again, you can miss and give up the initiative. You can score a single hit and pin them and give up the initiative. Or you can score 2 hits and suppress the target squad and retain the initiative, so that you can immediately, if you wish, shoot at them again. Shooting at a target with a single squad does not have a great chance of success or a great chance of keeping the initiative for you if you're the active player. Luckily, you can also in Crossfire do a group fire move. If there are 2 or more units from the same platoon next to each other, or usually in the same piece of terrain is close enough, you can declare a group fire, and then although each squad will shoot separately, the initiative swap, if there is one, isn't decided until both have fired. So I declare a group fire with these 2 squads, and my first squad rolls a complete miss. So normally, if they're shooting on their own, I would have lost the initiative. However, my second squad gets to shoot because it was a group fire. And in this case, luckily for me, they scored 2 hits, which is a suppression, and I retain the initiative. And if I wanted to, these 2 could group fire at the same Germans again. The final and most effective type of direct fire action is a crossfire, from which the rules get their name. To get the benefit of a crossfire shooting action, all the squads must be from the same platoon, and their platoon commander, who's here, must be present. The platoon commander and all the squads must be able to see the target, and the platoon commander must be able to see all the squads that he's directing to fire. If these criteria are met, then you can go ahead and roll for each individual squad as normal, and as with a group fire, we wait until the end of the shooting before we decide whether initiative has changed to the other player. Well, here we are. The first squad has failed to hit. The second squad has inflicted a pin. Neither of those are good enough to retain the initiative, but luckily for me, the final squad has managed to achieve a suppression. Once again, I keep the initiative, and because I have the initiative, I can, if I want to, shoot again. So that's it. That's the 3 ways of shooting your opponent in Crossfire. The other way of shooting that isn't covered here, Reactionary Fire, which the non-active player does in reaction to the active player moving, I'll cover in the next video when we discuss movement in Crossfire. And there is of course indirect fire, which I'll cover later on when we get to mortars and barrages and that sort of thing.